Jonathan Alder local school board meeting and wish all the mothers happy Mother's Day from yesterday. Everybody rise and please join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Item 4, may I have a moment for silent prayer and meditation, please. Thank you. Item 5.01, have a motion to approve the minutes for the April 12th, 2021 regular board meeting and waive the reading of said minutes.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
5.02, have a motion to approve the Board of Education agenda for the May 10th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Roll call, please. Did we get a second then?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy? Yes. Mr. Bothell? Yes. Mrs. Blackman?
Yes.
Item 6.01, financial report. Mr. Johnson, anything on?
Yes, I did want to take a minute here and update quickly on the forecast. I put a hard copy in front of you. Obviously, with the levy renewal, things have changed quite a bit. So you can see that it's been moved from the bottom up to the top. I highlighted the summary of the forecast. You can see this year we're probably going to end with a surplus of 1.5 million and new cash balance of 10.6. So obviously our expenditures, this is not a typical year. Obviously our expenditures were flat, maybe slightly down for this year. They are going to jump quite a bit next year. So that is one reason why we're having that surplus. But you can see throughout the next 3 years with the levy renewal, the financial condition is very stable, very good. So I really don't expect any issues within the next 3 years. Obviously, when you get more in the 4 to 5 range, the uncertainty comes in, and there could be some potential issues down the road. But the next 3 or 4 years, everything looks pretty stable now with that level. So I feel very good about the financial condition of the district right now. Any questions with anything?
That looks great. Just out of curiosity, did you see the, I'm sure you did, the state report like the projections of the new school funding? The Alder was not gonna.
No, that unfortunately is not going to really change much. It's going to provide more stability to our state funding, but we're not going to see any significant increase from the new formula, unfortunately. So there's also a concern with the open enrollment changing too. Could have a negative impact because we do benefit quite a lot from open enrollment. So I'd be surprised actually. I think that's still the way to go, ways to go.
Yeah.
If that is implemented, it's still going to phase in over 6 years.
Right.
But I would be surprised actually. I think that has a ways to go.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions, Mr. Johnson? I have a motion to approve the April 2021 financial reports as presented.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Bothell?
Yes.
Mrs. Blackman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Item 6.02, advance return of funds. May I need a motion to approve the advance return of $125,000 from the Food Service Fund 006 to the General Fund 001.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. Bothell?
Yes.
Mrs. Blackman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes. Item 6.03, may I have a motion to accept the donation as presented?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Votak?
Yes.
Mrs. Blackman?
Yes.
Mrs. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McCartney?
Yes.
Board reports, 7.0 Untold report, Mr. McCartney, what do you think there?
Well, the superintendent search is in full swing, so we hope to have a superintendent selected sometime around the first week of June. Certification ceremony is coming up on the 29th. And cool thing, Coles was selected as one of 12 schools in Ohio for a pilot program for the high school tech internship. And so it's a program where employers can hire high school students for an internship and be reimbursed. So it's pretty cool deal.
How many candidates were there for that?
For the internship program.
For the superintendent.
It's still open as I think it closes today. It closed today, so I didn't get our portal doesn't open until tomorrow.
Any other questions for Mr. McCartney? Thank you. Item 8, superintendent's report.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome, school board, and also all our guests here with us this evening. The first thing I would like to share would be a letter that we shared with our family, but it did not quite get out to the community, and it's regarding the levy. Essentially, it's a thank you letter, so I'll just read it here. Dear Jonathan Alder community, it is wonderful to live in a community that values education and supports our schools, and most importantly, our students. Thank you for your vote of confidence in Tuesday's tax and levy renewal. With your yes vote, our students will continue to receive outstanding opportunity, flexibility, and accessibility, which they need to achieve and perform at high levels. As a district, we pledge to continue to be fiscally responsible while providing a high-value public education for our community. I believe the most important investment an individual can make is into our schools, most importantly, into the lives of all of our students. On behalf of the Board of Education and Administration, I would like to thank the Levy Steering Committee and volunteers who invested tremendous time and effort in the drive to earn your financial support for our students. To our community members, alumni, business leaders, teacher staff, parents and family members who continue to dedicate themselves to the education of all our kids, we say thank you. I'd like to put that out there, and again, thank you for all your work today. As far as the next report, Mr. McCartney mentioned the toll certification on Saturday, May 29th, and we intentionally tried to schedule that all on the same weekend because they will be using Volunteer Field at Performance Stadium. Their start time is at 7 p.m. and we wanted to try to coordinate that just based on setup from not only all the chairs. I think you have around 220 graduates at tolls is what I last heard. We have approximately, we're right about 178. So again, they're going first. We'll see how that all flows. And then also, I asked Mr. Hayes here to share with us a little bit about some of the, as we begin to develop some of the details with Sunday for our graduation. And that first one would be at 2, and hopefully we can get that one. But we do have an alternate rain date scheduled for 7 p.m. or time, I should say, that evening. So Mr. Hayes.
Yeah, and I was feeling very good about that until this Sunday. We are still finalizing details for graduation. Right now, I can give you a little bit of a preview. The stage will be set up on the 5-10 yard line in the north end zone facing south. Both sides, for social distancing purposes, will be used. Mrs. Kersey, who's actually here tonight, she'll be running the scoreboard, and we will utilize that to highlight our graduates as their name is called and they're going across the stage. Some other things, band, choir, they will be performing just like normal, but they will be down on the track. And Mr. Finnick and I and some of the advisors are working through the details of what is exactly the setup. What I can tell you is that right now outside, since it's outside, we can have the kids 6 feet apart and make we believe we can make masks optional for them so that on their graduation day, they don't have to wear mask unless they choose to do so. Some other things would be that it will look just like it does on inside, only we're utilizing a much larger space. So we're really excited about it. Ticket-wise, we were hoping, again, we're following the Responsible Restart Ohio plan, and we were hoping that Governor DeWine might change graduation like he did for Major League Baseball and increase the capacity, but he did not. So we are still, we're at 30% capacity, whereas some other things have moved to 40. So feeling pretty good about it, and just finalizing the details.
Hopefully we'll be able to hit one of those times, either 2 p.m. or 7 p.m. One other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, he mentioned it too, as far as that social distancing piece and the masks at graduation. And I know we have obviously a lot of concern and questions on masking, and especially what I'm going to address here would be the outdoor requirements, if you will, and for recess or any type of event held here at school. But Madison County Public Health Department, they still require schools to Madison County Public Health Department requirements for schools do not mandate the use of masks during outdoor recess. However, if physical distancing cannot be reasonably maintained, then masks are required. Okay? However, maintaining physical distancing during recess, as you might imagine, put yourself in the teacher's supervisory role with 9, 10, 11-year-olds out of recess, it can be very difficult to maintain that physical distancing. Keeping track of students at recess who potentially could be exposed to a positive case is daunting, if you will. And if a student is not wearing a mask at recess and is exposed to a positive case at recess where the mask is off, let's say it that way, we, the school, teacher, administrators, are still responsible, are still required to contact trace and then ultimately quarantine. Those rules have not changed, period, through the Madison County Public Health Department, Ohio Department of Health. So quarantine, contact tracing is still our responsibility, and it is put on us to do that work, which is the same work we've been doing all year. The concern with elementary kids not wearing a mask and then all of a sudden being exposed to a positive case, and then we have to contact trace, which eventually could result into a phone call home to a family saying, hey, your child was exposed at recess and they were not wearing a mask. They cannot come to school for the next 10 days. They have to serve a quarantine. That is not what we want to do. And we've been in those situations numerous times this year where it falls on us to make that phone call. We want our kids here, we want to keep them here, and the last thing we want to do is send a student home or a group of students home the last 2 weeks of school. So that is specific to recess during the school day. Then you say, well, wait a second, we're trying to have as much outdoor activities as we possibly can. Yes, as the weather continues to improve, we talked about this as a leadership team, let's get our kids out as much as possible, outside as much as possible, structure those events and those activities to where they are socially distanced, to where they can take off their masks outside, to where it can be an option. It's not constant in that when they are in an activity that may require them to work together or post physical contact, we would ask that students put those masks back on. Another example is even when you're lining up to come back inside from a field day spring fling, whatever that may be. That's where we would ask, there's going to be times where we ask them to put that on. But if we can be outside and maintain that social distancing, we are encouraging our people to get our kids outside so they can take those masks off and they don't have to wait. But again, I just want to emphasize the contact tracing and the quarantine. Yes, it's very difficult to manage and to maintain. And what we don't want to do is be making any more phone calls to parents at home saying, hey, we got to quarantine your child. And again, just because we're following ODH, Department of Health, that's County Public Health, case contact, quarantine. Any questions?
So as it currently is, if kids are out of recess, they're socially distanced, they can take their mask off?
They can take their masks off. The challenge becomes, and that's where I think a lot of our teachers and administrators are concerned, is because if their masks are off, and again, you have 8, 9, 10-year-old, if they come in contact with a student who is positive, and they have their mask off, they would be required to quarantine. So, and that comes down to
If they have their mask off, then they don't have to. Is that what you said?
if they have their mask on, they don't have to. Exactly. The masks are on, and so that eliminates that burden for the teacher, administrator, as far as trying to figure out, okay, was that mask on, was that mask off, let alone got 20 kids out there in their homeroom or in their pod at recess. You know, that becomes a challenge in and of itself. And that puts a huge burden on that teacher to make that call, because they don't necessarily want to have their kid out of the classroom. They don't want to do that. So, and then it goes to the administrator. And a lot of times too, or at the high school or in the building, we can check using video to see if they had contact or not. Outside of recess, we don't have that. Good question.
So how does that, logistically, how does that work? Does the teacher, 2 days from now, when the teacher figures out there's a positive case, do they think that, who does that kid normally play with? And then we're just
That's what the
contact
challenge.
tracing them? basically?
Exactly. That's what the challenge would be for that teacher. Did your class have? Did your students have masks on? If they did, it eliminates that look back. But yes, that. But also, I wanted you to have a glimpse of that, because that's what all of our administrators have been dealing with all year with contact tracing. And they're just taking up an exorbitant amount of time, because we here are doing it for them. Any questions with that? Just wanted to put that out there. That's where we are right now. And again, if we can get our kids out and take these masks off, we want to do it, but we have to do it too, which is where we're not putting them in a situation where we're going to have to make a phone call home and send them out of here, especially for the last few days. As a parent, I don't want that for my kid. Period.
The only comment I have, Mr. Chapman, is I would just like to thank you and the administrators and the teachers for doing this. I know we're all in the same boat. I know other districts have done the same thing, but I also know it's not what educators signed up for. It's not what parents signed up for. It's not what anybody signed up for. But yet we find ourselves here, and we took a difficult job and we made it harder. And again, my hope is that we're not dealing with this, in the very near future, and this is something in our rearview mirror. But we have dealt with it. People have done their best, and I just want to thank you and the district and everybody involved for the efforts that they've made this year in trying to deal with a very difficult situation. So just leave it at that. Item 9, curriculum and instruction.
So, a few different updates for you this evening. I wanted to update you about JADA, the Jonathan Alder Digital Academy. So, we are right around 120 students who are in the Digital Academy. We have done 2 surveys this spring, well, February, and then March, April, trying to gauge interest for next year. So, our February survey, we only had about 30% of families respond. So we did a survey again. We had about 60% of our families respond for the end of March, April survey. That's about typical for a survey result. Currently, we only have 11 students that are saying they absolutely want to return to a digital platform for all year next year. We asked a question in that survey about joining with another school district, because I had reached out, talked to other school districts about can we share teachers if we share the platform, and 65% said no to joining with another school district, that they wanted our teachers doing that. So we've got to gauge what the availability is, whether or not that's effective for us to continue. Obviously, we have to wait for the state to hopefully give us some guidelines, and I'm hoping to have a recommendation in June to, do we continue, do we not continue with the Digital Academy? So just an update there, to where we are.
Now, was that 65% of the 11?
It was 65% of everyone, so I did not disaggregate. So somebody might have said no, they don't want to continue, and no, don't join with another district.
That's a misleading number.
Yeah, I didn't disaggregate that out. I'll get that number for you. So, last month you had an opportunity to look at our recovery plan, our learning and recovery plan that we had to turn into the governor's office by April 1st. So there are a couple items that go along with that, just to give you an update. We're doing a pilot program at the junior high, which is an after-school academy, and that was written into the plan, the pilot program, to have students stay after school for some skill building, focus on skills, not homework help, not homework completion, but focus on skills that they lost from not being in school full time. So right now we have about 23 students who are attending on a regular basis twice a week. You know, some weeks we might have 30, some students come just for math, come just for reading, but about 23 regular attendees. And then the hope is to take that afternoon academy, refine it for next year, and do it 5th grade through 8th grade. Have it a couple days after school, be able to target, okay, here are the skills, here are the gaps that students, don't have at this time, and then how can we fill those gaps in? So that's one part of our recovery plan that we have in motion going right now. Another part of our recovery plan is our elementary summer camp. And so we have 9 days this summer that elementary students will be invited to participate in summer camp. It's not going to look like school like normal. It's not going to be a lot of remedial, just catch-up work. It's going to be interweaving skills that, again, we feel students need, but interweaving it through fun camp activities. They will have themes every day. There will be STEM activities. Again, we have a great group of teachers who've signed up. They've been meeting. Julie Page is going to be leading that summer camp. She's been working on it for a couple of months now. And this week, we're sending out 178 invitations for students both Plain City and Monroe to participate in summer camp. We will be providing transportation, and we will also be providing some form of grab-and-go meal for the students to take as they leave so that we're able to feed students. And then the last part of kind of the recovery plan for this summer is a high school summer school, and that will be a credit recovery summer school where students, mostly juniors and seniors, who are credit deficient or missing graduation requirements will come to basically fill in the gap to make up the credits for those classes. So maybe a student passed the first semester of Algebra 2, but second semester they did not, and so they'll be able to take Algebra 2 again in that time frame. So that'll be running June 7th through 24. There will be teachers assigned to that. We are using the same credit recovery online program that we've used the past 3 or 4 years. And it's hard to say how many invitations will go out because it's May, and this is that time where we start reminding kids, hey, grades due, get stuff in. You're close, trying to get those credits. So those are the 3 programs we have currently. And then later on your agenda, you have memorandum of understanding between the Jonathan Alder school district and the board and the Teacher Education Association. What we have done, we have worked with JAEA. If we have teachers who are teaching in a recovery program, so it's part of our recovery program, and they're instructing students, we would like to compensate them at a higher rate than what the current bargaining agreement compensates. So the MOU that you have later is asking to compensate those teachers at a rate of $35 an hour, whereas the current bargaining agreement is $22 an hour. All of the funds for any item that falls under this will be coming from ESSER funding, which is money that the government is giving us for recovery programming. So we'd like to pay the teachers more because they're working longer, they're working after school, they're working in the summer. Thankful that they're working this summer, so thankful that they're willing to come in and do summer camp and everything this summer. So we would just like to compensate them because they are teaching, they're working with kids, they're creating lessons, they're designing lessons. So if the program is tied to the recovery, it'll be paid out of ESSER, and there are 3 different ESSER funds, so it gets really confusing. But there are 3 different levels of ESSER, so those teachers would be eligible for that $35 an hour. Questions or comments on?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I just want to thank JAEA for working with us to get this signed and to hopefully sign that later. And then the only other thing I have for you, I know you've seen Mrs. Schrock has sent out in your update our summer innovation for teachers. We are super excited. We've, again, 9 days after school is out, inviting teachers to come in. It's teachers teaching teachers. It's teachers like sharing the best of what they've done all year. We have some outside presenters also coming in who have some expertise. We have somebody coming in for sports psychology to work with our coaches and our high school teachers. We have an entire district-wide program on understanding wounded students and how do you really meet the needs and understanding students from trauma and what does that look like. And then what can you do in your classroom? What steps can you take? We have a specialist in EL who will be coming in and working with teachers who have students who, English is not their first language. But the majority of what's being offered, it's the teachers. And they're talking about what they do and what works for them. And it's elementary teachers working with junior high teachers. It might be high school teachers in the same session with elementary. So again, it's a great way for our teachers to be the experts that they are, share what they have, and then also earn CEUs, their continuing education that they need in order to renew their license. So that will be June 1st. We go the 1st through the 10th. We do not do that second Friday. So, but 9 days of that. So yeah, we're excited.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Thank you. Item 10, public comments and commendations. No commendations, so we go to public comments. And we've got several this evening, and I'd ask everyone to keep those to 3 minutes. And the first one up is Alexa Utz.
Do you want me just to stand here?
Well, you can step up a little bit so we can make sure we hear you.
Thank you. Thank you for having public comments here and being able to share with you. My name is Alexa Utz, and I'm here to advocate for my future student and request that the district revise their mask policy to be optional instead of mandatory starting in the fall. My reasons for this request are rooted in common sense, consistency with out-of-school scenarios, and are also scientifically sound. Children are not at high risk for COVID-19, according to the most recent data. We do not make them wear masks during flu season, which is a disease much more likely to cause pediatric health complications each year. Children also do not pose a threat to individuals in older, higher risk age brackets. All individuals within the state of Ohio, 16 and up, have been able to get a vaccine if they choose to do so. Our hospitals are not overwhelmed with COVID patients at this time, and much less so COVID pediatric patients. And isn't this a reason you were given for masking anyway? Reasons, well, wearing masks inappropriate and long-term puts children at risk for other health issues. It's almost inevitable that
environment to pick up other bacterial infections, pneumonia, pink eye, MRSA, strep, sinus infections. All of those have been reported in higher numbers this year. How often are students changing their masks? Who's monitoring this? And are children taking off their masks when they're going into the bathroom and back out? Or is that bacteria from the bathroom sitting on their face for the rest of the day? What about children who cannot launder their masks every day, who don't have access to multiple clean masks? Children are inhibited from wearing facial expressions imperative to providing connections for empathy and trust. They're inhibited from learning correct speech articulation. None of these concerns even include the psychological issues that result from long-term mask wearing. Parents of your students are reporting increased anxiety and depression. According to the British Medical Journal, these long-term stressors can turn into mental health problems that are very difficult to cure once they get developed. And it also decreases their immune system. How can you reconcile the inconsistencies of school versus the normal environment students participate in otherwise? We just had a baseball parade. All of the students were sitting next to each other. They're throwing candy, they're talking, they're playing sports. Daycare, restaurants, church, VBS, summer camps, playgrounds, play places. But you already know all of this. You know that your students are not at high risk for COVID-19 complications. You know they're not resilient, but they've been silenced. They're scared to speak out and disappoint their teachers. They're scared to get in trouble and say how they truly feel about wearing these masks. They're afraid to be seen as different. They're afraid to be bullied. They're afraid to be called selfish. So they suck it up and they continue on, even though this may be a traumatizing and unhealthy experience for them. If you wanted to know how your students are faring, all you have to do is ask. I don't have a student, and that's all I did. And I had many responses and had to create a group of over 100 of us parents to talk about what masks are doing to children, because I didn't have any idea what was going on in the schools. I'm able to forward some of these experiences to you in an email later, because some people want to remain anonymous. My child enjoyed an entire year of maskless preschool this year. He will enjoy maskless summer. And in the fall, I'm supposed to force him to cover his face for 7 hours a day in kindergarten. That will not be happening. And if you look around the room and into the halls tonight, read our petition of over 200 concerned citizens, or simply talk to your students honestly and without retribution, you will learn the consequences of these COVID-19 policies on their health. Thankfully, there are now more school districts lifting the burden of masking from our children in Ohio. And I do hope that Jonathan, Alder, you next, and if your hands are truly tied, I do ask that you put pressure where it needs to be to get our children back to normal, because they need you to advocate for them. So if your hands are tight, please push, not ODH, because other districts are opening, but Madison County. I mean, they need you guys. The students need to return to normal, have these normal experiences, and move on. They're not a risk to each other. Anybody. So, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Elise. I think it's everybody's goal to not have masks in the fall. I think that would make it really happy. Next up is Scott Davis.
Good evening. I'm Scott Davis. I'm on my third child in the district. Before I get too much farther in there, thank you.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you just said, what you've done, and what you're going to do. Your speech is almost exactly like mine, and I've never met you.
I don't think I've met hardly anybody.
What does that say? Two parents, complete strangers, have the exact same speech to say, except I'm going to take it farther, okay? Like I said, I'm on my third child in the district. Hopefully I'll be at the graduation to see my son graduate without a mask on. I don't plan on wearing one while I'm there. I hope that we come to a conclusion that we don't have to wear them. We're all on the same page. I don't know what the issue is, but let me tell you what I've prepared. So I'm here to talk to you about the reviewing the mask wearing mandate and your school policy number 5517.01. This is stuff that I've learned over the last 2 weeks because I gotta be quite honest with you. I'm the bronze of the family, and my wife is sitting up there. She's the brains. I'm being dead honest. I'm standing here talking to you because I'm not scared to talk in front of you. A lot of people are, to include my son, which you talked about, unknowingly, you talked about my son. I'd like to direct your attention to the American Disability Act that specifically says that my son does not have to wear a mask because he has allergies and has asthma. The way that, and I'm having a hard time breathing with this on my face now. The way that he does not have to wear that mask, and it's been confirmed with Mr. Hayes, because him and I had a very, very long discussion in his office because I was ready to jump off the ledge. And I'll tell you about it here in a minute. But as long as my son has it documented in his records prior to school starting, back when he was in kindergarten, he's a freshman now. These allergies have been here, his asthma's been here. We used to take him to get shots once a week because his allergies and asthma is that bad. Thank God that it's down to 1 shot per month. When my son tells me he can't breathe, he can't breathe. And it's not because he's out there running. He doesn't play sports because he can't breathe. That breaks my heart. So, the 3 things I want to talk about is my understanding that Mr. Cook puts these guidelines out. The school board says that Madison County, and I gotta be quite honest with you, I don't know who says we have to wear the masks because it's so wishy-washy. One time it goes down to London, one time it comes back up here, it goes back there. Just stop. Stop. Let's take a stance because the people out here that are agreeing with me, which most of you I don't know, we are the community.
Yes.
You are our leaders.
Yes.
We are asking you to stop with the mask mandate because we don't agree with them. And by what you're saying, and by what I believe what you're saying, is that you don't agree with it either. If we all don't agree with wearing the mask, let's stop. Let's make it optional because if you want the shot, you got the shot. And yes, I'm choosing my words very carefully because it's not a vaccination. It's a shot. Don't be too surprised if you have to get the shot again. So, the comment about the board being wishy-washy, I said it's against the ADA and it has created a hostile environment. Yes, this school is a bullying pot ready to explode because of students like what she's talked about wants to wear the mask so that they're not singled out like a scarlet letter or a tattoo on their forearm. And I don't need to tell you about the history that that caused. But if somebody is excluded from wearing a mask, they will be picked on. So, back and forth, the mask wearing against ADA standards, school board of assurance. Okay, so at the beginning of this year, it is my understanding, and I did not talk to any teachers about this because I'm in the community a lot. I see a lot of high school students, and it was just confirmed just 2 hours ago. I can't believe this happened to my son. The person I was talking to was like, I wear my mask like that every day. From the beginning of the school year, all the way up until the last week of April, people are allowed to wear their masks like this, like we all do to breathe, every once in a while. And I was even told that this is fine to wear the mask in the school, this school. I don't know about the junior high, but this school, because I've talked to high school students. Then all of a sudden, at the end of April, certain teachers, we have this problem taken care of. please put your mask on above your nose. Please put it above your nose. With the allergies and asthma increasing in my son's body, when he was asked to put the mask above his nose, he said no. He was given a detention, and I was being texted immediately, and I have a copy of that detention that he was issued because he wouldn't wear his mask properly. I instructed my son to wear the mask that he has to be able to breathe. As soon as Mr. Hayes found out about this detention, we had a meeting. I backed off the ledge from going crazy, because this is crazy, giving detentions to a kid that doesn't have to follow the rules because of the ADA, but was given a detention because he couldn't breathe. The child was following the rules. It came to an agreement that my son would wear a mesh mask. If you're not familiar with that, I have a copy of what one looks like here. Okay? It is a mesh mask, somewhat like what the coaches wore during Saturday morning football, specifically that team down the south called Alabama, that coach, our coach at Ohio State. That's the mask my son was wearing. We went out and purchased it and got it Thursday night. He came to school Friday, second period. He gets kicked out of the classroom for wearing a mask that he doesn't have to wear properly. He texts me, he goes, "Dad, I just got kicked out of class for wearing my mask properly." I said, "Go to Mr. Hayes' office, he will handle this." And if he wants to tell you what was said in that office, I'll let him tell you. But he saved the school board from a lawsuit. That's how serious myself and by my understanding, a lot of the parents are with this wishy-washy of making it mandatory, but not enforcing it, handing out detentions, kicking kids out of class. And I would chalk this up to just one child, but it's not. Other kids receive detentions. This wishy-washiness of saying it goes down here, it goes up here, has created a hostile environment in this building, and now you have students being asked to police other students. So our students have been deputized by the teachers to turn in the person next to them for not wearing their mask right. So I'm going to leave you with this, that I hope you review the policy and do away with this hostile environment that has been created by the wishy-washiness, because this is harassment and it's straight out of the board's policy 5517.01, hostile, intimidation, and bullying. We need to take a stance. We are Jonathan Alder. We're pioneers. We follow the science. We follow common sense. And before I leave, I just want to let you know, as soon as they're done talking, I'm leaving because I got to go to work. Do you have any questions
Thanks,
for me?
Mr. Davis. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Next is Heidi Keller.
Can I pass till later? I don't want to re-bring up things that somebody else was already going to say.
Okay, Lauren Hand.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lauren. I am trying to try not to cry.
You may read it. I'll read it.
first year here, and so far we've had a great experience amidst the circumstances with everything going on. So my boys had started a new school this year with masks on, knowing nobody, no teachers, no students, nobody. It's just like to put yourself in that position, having to start a brand new school, don't have your face show. And on top of it, I do have a kindergartner who does have an IDP for speech. And he is also on MCCARTNEY for his IDP as well. He is having issues with his mask because he cannot see the teacher speak. He is having problems, he is regressing because he's not able to, they don't understand him because he's muffled from his mask being on. Children thrive on seeing faces, they need to see smiles. They need to see mouths move for correct pronunciation for speech. Can you imagine being speech delayed and have to understand, or hard to understand already, but now you have to wear a mask and be muffled even more? Can you imagine the frustration of these kids not being able to be understood? You see the mental toll that this is having on our children. Add that on top of breathing in your own carbon dioxide, getting headaches daily from not being able to breathe, you're feeling exhausted, irritable, and putting them at risk for bacterial infection is the superintendent. All this for a virus that doesn't even affect them and has a higher survival rate for the rest of the population. All the teachers and staff have had the opportunity to be vaccinated if they chose. So when is this going to end? Children are not resilient. They're slowly breaking down. My kids come home every day and ask when the last day of school is because they don't want to wear their masks anymore. They are done. I am done forcing on them as a parent. Why can all the sports and the Plain City All-Ball Association, why do they not have to wear masks? All the adults at the baseball game, they're all out and about. You're all masked around them at school, but when you're out and about, you're not masked around them. How does that make sense? That's not, it's not the same. Nothing is consistent. We as parents are done with this nonsense. We are asking you as the board to just please advocate for our kids. Please do everything in your power to end this. We want them to come back to school next year normal. All I'm asking you is to make next year as normal as possible for these kids. Thank you.
Amen.
Next, Erica Detweiler.
Board and administrators. My name is Erica Detweiler, and I am just here to relay to you my personal experience and that of a close friend who had to work this evening with the inconsistencies and the lack of logic or facts behind the school's policy, specifically at the junior high regarding quarantining and masking. My son was placed on a full quarantine because of an exposure during lunch that he had on a Friday. I was notified of this full quarantine on Monday after school and told that he had to stay at home and do nothing else except be at home until the following Tuesday when his 10 days was over. I was also told that when I asked if there was something I could do, go and get him tested. I will go get him a negative COVID test. I was told that is not acceptable to break a quarantine because he could possibly have symptoms after the test. I said, that is fine. I understand that makes sense. I will take him for a test every morning before school for a negative COVID test. I was told this is not possible and he is not able to come to school under any circumstance. I was also informed by the administration at the junior high that I said, basically, there's nothing I can do for my healthy child to be in school. He said, well, one thing you could tell your son is if he would wear his mask correctly, like this, instead of like this, so that he can breathe during the day, if he would comply to our request to wear his mask correctly, we would not have to be focusing on him so much, to be watching him all the time, and we could, interact with other children and also ask him to not high-five his friends or hug his friends at the lunchtime hour, because it then makes him be susceptible to this quarantine. And I kindly replied that I will not tell my son to not interact with his friends because they are children and they need this. As was previously cited, children are having depression, children are having anxiety. A friend of mine has a daughter with an eating disorder who relapsed. Every single girl in her group was relapsed because of COVID and all the isolation and all the restrictions. That being said, my friend who was had to work this evening, her son also at the junior high, was placed on a full quarantine. She is a nurse. She sends her children to school with their masks willingly. She will vaccinate her children when that, she just told me this evening they announced 12 through 15 can get their vaccinations. We're on opposite sides of this mask issue, and she is in agreement with me that the Madison Health Department rules that are being told to you, or the way that the school district is then enforcing them with us regarding the quarantine, does not make sense. She is a nurse. She knows what the CDC is saying. It is not what the CDC is saying that these children cannot come to school when they are healthy, they have no symptoms, and they have negative COVID tests. I should not have to fight for my healthy child to be able to go to school because he's not sick. He never got sick, and he had to sit at home because that was a rule. I don't know where this rule comes from or what basis there is, because it's not a CDC rule. And it seems as though there is a large, vast inconsistency with the Madison County Health directives that are recommendations, not laws. And I just want to beseech you as a board to just do not succumb to the fear and allow us the freedom to choose for ourselves what our children do with their faces. And those of us who choose to have our children vaccinated or to wear a mask to protect them, that can be our choice. And I just want to instill some courage in you to stand up for that right for our children. Madison County, if I just looked this evening on the Ohio Department of Health website, 44,721 residents in the county of Madison. Since August 17th, there have been 53 people that died of COVID. This is not a threat to our children. This is not a threat to our students. This is not something that we need to be enforcing on them when the cost is so great. Thank you.
Next is Amber Mack.
This is intimidating stuff. I'm Dr. Amber Murphy-Mack. I am a board-certified OBGYN physician. I was a graduate of Jonathan Alder in 2003. I have a first grader and then a son that's going to go to kindergarten in the fall here. I do want to say that I feel in my heart, and I empathize with you guys, this journey that we've been on, because we've been on it in the hospital too. This scary thing no one knows, and you're just throwing everything that could possibly stick. If you get 1%, 0.5% protection for this horribly deadly disease, then you got to take that. And then time goes on, and just science evolves. And even in the hospital, which is full of scientific people making decisions, you still get stuck in this inertia, or the people that are not medically trained at the top making decisions that aren't boots on the ground, that don't understand what actively is going on. I mean, I have just seen this I thought it was a really good job at first, and then I've just seen this evolve, especially since January 1st, when you're looking at all of the overwhelming data about the transmission between kids, small children, I guess I'm talking about elementary school, and You know, it comes from the adult to the kid, not kid to kid. And I guarantee if you went back through all that contact tracing of younger elementary school kids, like 2nd grade and below, you are not going to find cases, at least not clinically significant cases that weren't just an asymptomatic positive, which are often false with a lot of those tests. You're not going to find kids making other kids sick, even with mild illness, much less significant illness. So you have all these rules that I just feel are still sticking around. And at first I just let it go. But the list seems expanding to me with varying levels of enforcement, as a lot of these people are saying. And finally, just nice emails to Chris Cook or the principal or the teacher, and everybody always just seems to claim to me that it's someone else's rule, and it's been frustrating. And Chris Cook's responses are often contradict each other. They profoundly make no scientific sense whatsoever, and he has no medical training. And yet he makes these mandates on a whim without actually being boots on the ground. It's very frustrating. I mean, even if you could just, something so small, if you really made a list of all the things we ask our kids to do at every grade level and go, what can we take from that? So if my 1st grader has to be masked outside the whole time, which he tells me the enforcement of that's going up and he finds that frustrating. If he has to be masked the whole time, then why does he have this like square on the playground? And his day is the good day or the bad days. The good day is the one day every 8 days that's a basketball hoops in his square, but then he can't cross. But he has to be masked the whole time. It's just become insanity. I truly think that period, masking outside has become just so far gone, like months and months ago. A transmission is so inconsequential outside at every age level. As people have mentioned, I mean, I think that the baseball opening day ceremonies really show our community standard, which the community standard, the local standard of care, is an important part of making policy. And there were literally thousands of people, of kids and adults packed in there. I don't know. And as Erica mentioned, the approval of the vaccine on the 12th, I mean, I'll tell you, if my son was 12, I'd be rushing to get that vaccine. And that's just my opinion. But it is available. And at first we had to say, well, it prevents severe disease. What else does it prevent? But the data is just mounting that it truly is preventing transmission as well. So that it truly can be optional and masks can be optional. And I just think, with what I've seen in the hospital, we're finally hitting a point where clinicians on the ground have to push back. Like, I have to fight for my patients. I'll try not to talk too long, sorry, but like one really personal example on labor and delivery, right? It's really easy to say, make a woman mask in labor the whole time. If you've never been in labor, that's really easy. But then, what do we have? I mean, that's what we've done for a year. Just sweating, yelling, like tripping, we're giving them a fresh one. Like, we've been torturing them. And unfortunately, that kind of makes sense when we thought that the fatality was 3%, we didn't have a vaccine, we couldn't test them reliably. I'm living in my N95. But now when we have patients that they're fully vaccinated, all the staff is fully vaccinated, they've done a symptom questionnaire. Like at that point, how are they going to have a viral load high enough to transmit it to me? And yet still. So that has been a big point of fighting, and we finally have won that battle just in the last about a week or so. This is insane. But it took a lot of fighting, and it's just one of those things. I think the hospital administrators just, it's easy to just let rules go because you forget about taking them away unless you're living there every day. So some of the little things that you guys make my 7-year-old do at lunch, and the things you make them do on the playground, and the things you make them do, this list gets really, really long. And even if it's different teachers seeing him and different things in and outside of school, it just gets longer and longer and longer. We really have to start to fight to take things away. And I'm really been very disappointed with Chris Cook's very anti-scientific approach and just unwillingness to discuss it in any meaningful way. I mean, again, I'm just a gynecologist, but I would love to have a dialogue with him and whoever his sources are, just to try to find some things that make sense moving forward. So, I don't know if you guys have any questions or have dialogue for me. I actually think, the other thing I was gonna say, it might be controversial. I actually think that a vaccination effort in our middle school and high school is super important. It clearly should be so optional, but even just some of the kids, a vaccine optional, a mask optional. You could do both, you could do neither. I mean, that's gonna significantly help us where we wanna go, which is just not have our community sick and not have our kids sick. It's okay to have cases. It's fine to have cases. We don't want hospitalizations and deaths. And that is what we've really lost sight of what's important for our community, so. Thanks for listening. Do you have any?
Heidi, do you want to say anything? Laney?
Oh,
Correct?
yeah. Are there any other speakers after me?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Well, I'm loud enough that I'm going to hail from back here. I was involved with a parent group that came in before we were wearing mandatory masks in December. Maybe we were. It just seems like it's, you know, been 500 years of this nonsense now. But at that time, we were talking about getting kids back in school. And we did that. And now we, you know, it's just, there's a lot of similar sentiments now. But I'm going to challenge you guys with some other sentiments. I'm Laney Tanferry. I'm an incoming freshman and an incoming 5th grader. And we don't really have ADA. My kids really have been fine for the most part. Do I hear about bullying? Yep, I sure do. Do I hear about teachers policing? I sure do. Do I hear about kids losing friends right now because maybe their parents aren't managing their political views well? But it doesn't matter because my kid doesn't even have my same political view. And, well, oh, woe is me, but she doesn't even have my same political view because she's in 8th grade and she's influenced by those around her now. But she's even sick of the people who have taught her another political side of things because it has become vehement. It has become bullying, okay? But here's where I'm coming from at this point. I have 2 questions. What is it going to take for this district, once and for all, to stand up to Chris Cook, our county health commissioner, and take care of our own house? There is way too much discrepancy. My sister-in-law, Sonia, looked at the school's policies back in December. She talked to legislators at the Ohio House Bill 606 frees employers and school districts of liability, all COVID-19 liabilities. But yet, for some reason, what I don't understand is, if I were to point to Bill and point to Mr. Vota and point to all of you, I know Bill has kids in the district. Do any of the rest of you have kids in the district? But I feel from December to now, if I were to point and have a private conversation with Christine, with any of you, I bet you would have our backs. What is going on of this leadership team in this district that is not using science, not using data, not using common sense? You know what we did? We brought in pro-love books to all of our elementary schools because of mental health issues at the elementary level. But through 12th grade all the way down to kindergarten, we are sharing with all of you the mental health issues that are happening with our children in school every day that is going unnoticed. But yet, again, we card in that you board approved all these pro-love, love is love books, which is a completely different set of circumstances. Why? Because of mental health. We have mental health issues that go far beyond, am I a girl or a boy at this point in time? We have bigger fish to fry, and somewhere with the leadership team, with the administration, with the board, with an outgoing superintendent, I don't know where the gall and the strength lies, but I'm challenging you with my very assertiveness and my passion and my advocacy streak for this district, when are you going to stand up to Chris Cook? We are telling you to stand up to Chris Cook. He is condescending. He is ill-mannered. He does not do anything for any of our districts. And what's worse is every school system in Madison County under his tutelage is doing something different. Every district, every, what are we called? Not township. What are we? Ohio has like 66 of these. What are they called? Counties, sorry. Every county across Ohio is doing something different based on the strength or the lack thereof, or the common sense or the power trip of their health commissioner. This is our house. This is our community. This is our school. We elect all of you. I don't know if you're like hearing it, but we're not happy with what's going on at the board level, because you know what? We elect you guys, and that's all we have. That's all we have is our local magistrate, and you guys are our local magistrate. You guys are our elected officials. We're going to vote you out. You have to stand up to Chris Cook. He is unfounded, and none of us envy you. We're 15 months into this. We're done. We're done. And you are elected by us. You work for us. I know what Gary said. It actually made me like, oh, I don't want to say anything because I totally agree with what he's saying. Somewhere there is power that lies within our district, and we say enough. And we're saying enough. Are you hearing us? Because we've been saying enough since December. But for some reason, everybody passes the buck. And we're too small a district, and we're too intertwined a community to allow you to continue to pass the buck. Gary says it's Chris. Then we say it's the state. DeWine passes HB 606. He signed 606. It doesn't make any sense. So my second question then is, again, do I have to repeat my first one? When are we going to stand up to Chris Cook? Because everything always comes back to pointing the blame at him. My second question is, if we're really serious about standing up to Chris Cook, if we're really serious about pulling us all up by our bootstraps and doing what we know to be right for the majority of our kids, because if you are COVID squeamish, wear a mask. If you want to get a vaccination, get a vaccination. We are beyond common sense. We're beyond science now. This is just rules for the sake of rules for the sake of rules, and nothing makes sense anymore because there's no liability. Legally, there's no liability. There's no liability. So what I don't know, there's never any give and take at a board meeting. Why can't we create a working group of involved parents and the board and whoever the mysterious leadership team is that, you know, makes the rules and makes this rule and here's the square and you get the basketball court this day and whatever this is nonsense. We are the common sense people that pay taxes. Our kids are being affected. Why don't we just come together and work and question and give and take and stand up? If Chris Cook is the crux of this nonsense, let us fight Chris Cook. Or instead, why don't you guys do it? Because you're our leaders. You're our elected officials. That's all I'm asking. If there's an opportunity for parents to align with the board to go against Chris, we have medical professionals, we have legal counsel, we have a plethora of talent in this community. Let's get it done, because this is ridiculous, and we're exhausted, and we're angry. Thank you.
Amen.
Thanks for sharing. I'd share a couple things. There are several committees that involve parents, and we've had a Jonathan Alder. There have been several that have been involved. I know Heidi's been a part of them. Several people have been involved in them. I encourage everybody to run for the board of election, and I encourage people to vote. You all should do that. I think community members should be part of being a part of this district and running. I think that is a great idea. The other thing I will mention is that, just so you know, we receive a lot of information too that's contrary to what you say. It's in support of what? Not everyone is in the same page. Just so you understand that, there's a lot of people that say, thank you very much for this. So just want to put it out there that there is two sides to every story. But thank you, thank you, thank
Where
you
are they?
everyone tonight for sharing.
Where are they?
I've got a letter right here from one that asked not to be read at the board meeting.
Oh, I bet you I know whose name that is.
Because they don't want to be targeted by somebody. It is part of the problem is that we can't have civil dialogue with people anymore, just to stand up and have people go, I think this and I think that. But I really do. I appreciate everybody coming in here and sharing. It is heartfelt. I get it. I do have grandkids in here. They were quarantined for 10 days. They had COVID. I've been through the exact same thing from my grandkids' perspective, not from my kids. But, so I appreciate that. But thank you very much for coming in and sharing all that. We heard it. We heard it. So thank you. Item 11, old business, 11.01. Community Reinvestment Area Abatement Agreement. I need a motion to approve the Community Reinvestment Area Abatement Agreement with the Village of Plain City as presented.
Yes.
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 Item 12.01, resignations. We have a motion to accept the resignations as presented. So moved. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Item 11. Item 12.02, employment. I have a motion to approve all employment as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. Votak?
Yes.
Mrs. Blackman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Item 13.01. We have a motion to approve the MOU as determined concerning payment for staff working with students as part of the learning recovery and extended learning plan. I think that's what Misty had mentioned earlier.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. Votak?
Yes.
Mrs. Blackman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes. Item 13.02, I have a motion to approve the 2020-21-22 shared services agreement with the Madison Champaign Educational Service Center as presented.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Votak?
Yes.
Mrs. Blackman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McCartney?
Yes.
Item 13.03, may I have a motion to approve the Jonathan Alder Local School District membership into the OHSAA for the 21-22 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Blackman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. Votak?
Yes.
Item 13.04, a motion to approve the overnight athletic camps trips as presented. Basketball, volleyball, cross country.
So moved.
I'll second.
Too, just so you know too, we have a whole list of all the camps containing the board packages.
Yeah. Look good.
A roll call, please.
Mrs. Blackman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. Votak?
Yes.
Item 14, the next regular board meeting is Monday, June 8th, 28th at 5:30 p.m. We have a motion to adjourn to May 2021.
If we could,
Yeah.
Mr. Faust, I would like to schedule a special board meeting though between now and June 28th. One of the things would be for hiring personnel to take care of that. June 28th is quite a ways away. It's still some hiring to do. So if I put some possible dates there Tuesday, June 8th, or Wednesday, June 9th, and we can even go early in the morning if that would help out. But would like to have one kind of in between here just to take care of personnel issues.
I'm not good on 8 at all, so I could probably do the 9.
June 9th?
I don't think for the mornings, I think the evening.
What time do it?
5:30 is. Okay.
On the ninth.
Or June 9th? Okay. Does that work?
Yep, okay. The 9th at 5:30. Anything else on that, Mr. Chairman?
No, that's it. Just want to get that one scheduled.
A motion to adjourn the May 2021 meeting of the Johnson Alder Board of Education.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Tom?
Yes.
Mr. McCartney?
Yes.
Boto?
I guess.
Mrs. Blackman?